Hello and welcome to I-24 News Sports Weekend Edition with some of the best stories we had in our magazine this past week. We will speak about football, but not about the action on the pitch, but rather about some unfortunate events surrounding the game. Bnei Sakhnin is the most successful Arabic football club in Israel, having won the Israeli Cup in 2004 and playing in the UEFA Cup the following season. The team was seen as the example of Arab and Jewish coexistence, but tensions have risen following Operation Protective Edge, and the strong ties the club holds with Qatar, seen as the main sponsor of Hamas, is widely criticized within Israel. The ceremony held this past weekend to thank Qatar for their financial support brought some Israeli dignitaries to call for the team to be banned. Matthias Inbar and Danny Swibel with a story.
The Doha Stadium, which is in northern Israel, was named after the Qatari city of Doha. The stadium is home to Bnei Sakhnin, which is located in a small Arab town in the Galilee. The club was founded in 1991 and is the most successful Israeli Arab club in the country, having won the State Cup in 2004. However, with the current financial problems, the club officials looked to Qatar for support. The mayor of Sakhnin and former president of the club, Mazen Ghanem, spoke about the club's connection with the Gulf state as being strictly financial relief and nothing more.
It was to my delight that the head of Qatar responded to our request. He agreed to pay $2 million in funds for the club. A portion of that was paid, and I am sure he will meet his commitments. If Qatar offers me 8 million shekels to save the team, I'd be crazy to refuse.
Former Israel Arab MP Azmi Bishara, who ran to Qatar, was suspected of passing information to Hezbollah. However, he was the intermediary for the club during this process. Director of Bnei Sakhnin, Khaled Kassoum, was with Bishara in Qatar and spoke about his encounter.
It's not a secret. Yes, it was Dr. Azmi Bishara who helped us meet the head of Qatar. But you know, the symbol of our team is living together. It's more than just a team. Jews and Arab play together. This is precisely what prompted Qatar through our intermediate venture.
This is not the first time that Qatar injected money into the club. After the 2004 Israeli Cup victory, the powerful monarchy decided to build this $6 million stadium. But the only part that may be surprising is that Qatar gave assistance to Israeli football. The club also created controversy by publicly thanking Azmi Bishara before the kickoff of a league match. The Israeli Federation has since promised to open a disciplinary council against the club.
The
general Israeli public does not see this as a good thing with Azmi Bishara. And then there was the role of Qatar during Operation Protective Edge. It should also be noted that the delegation of Bnei Sakhnin was questioned at the border control when they returned from Qatar.
As the economic crisis continues, the team's only goal is to stay in the top league in Israel. The board members at the club state that the money received has no political ties, despite it coming from Qatar.
And we're now joined in the studio by Matthias Inbar, our reporter. Hi, Matthias. Thank you for coming.
Nice to meet you.
Matthias, you were in Sakhnin a few weeks ago. What are the feelings there? This was a place, really the symbol of coexistence. I think ever since Protective Edge, not so much.
Yeah, and I was surprised actually when I came in Sakhnin to see how much signals that Qatar were placed in Sakhnin. You have, for example, the mall called Doha Qatar Mall. You have a culture center called Doha Center's Culture Center. So the Qatar is omnipresent in the city. And now you can see that in 2004, there were four Israeli players, Jewish players. Yeah, who played in the final called Lior Asulin.
In that team that won the State Cup.
Exactly, and Lior Asulin was one of the top scorers of the team, and he scored the night of the victory. And now you can see that only one Jewish player is playing. And when Ahmed Kassoum is saying that, you know, this is a Jewish-Muslim team, he's not right exactly, because a lot of Jewish players quit the team during the last summer, and they went away because they were not exactly feeling good during the Protective Edge and the others Muslim players. He's complaining, by the way, about the fact that Israeli team hasn't got any international from the Muslim community. do we have to ask the question of do they have the correct level to play?
But Israeli teams such as Hapoel Tel Aviv, Maccabi Haifa, to name a few,
course.
and not all of them, they have Arab players, top Arab players. I mean, some of the big players in Israel are Arabs, not necessarily in Sakhnin, and that's perfectly all right.
Maran Ghadi, for example, he's playing in Maccabi Tel Aviv. And there are more Arab players playing for Jewish teams than Jewish playing in Bnei Sakhnin. So this is a false controversy up to my view. But you know, there is a kind of political issue here, because when I asked them why the Israeli Federation didn't know about the fact that they went to Qatar, so they answered me, we said that we are going to Qatar, but just forgot to mention that Azmi Bishara will help them.
I think if the whole Azmi Bishara thing wouldn't be involved, it would have maybe gone by, because as you have said, you were in Sakhnin. Money coming in from Qatar is not a new thing. The stadium is called Doha Stadium. The mall is called Doha Mall. That's fine. It has been going on for years. Azmi Bishara is a very delicate issue within Israeli population. An Israeli member of Knesset, allegedly spied for Hezbollah. If that would have gone by, then I think this whole matter would have not caused the controversy that it did.
Definitely, you're right. You asked the real question, and your fifth point, because exactly what happened is that when I asked the Israeli Federation why didn't know that they have been helped by Azmi Bishara, so they said, we thought that time because they're having help in the past with
that is not a new thing either.
And Ahmed Tibi helped them. Ahmed Tibi is a correct MK. He created controversial histories in the Knesset, but he's not under law. So what happened here is that they didn't mention that Azmi Bishara was in the middle of the story. That's the point.
And maybe we should state that it's happening in football, but this is not just a microcosmos of the whole Israeli society, Jewish and Arab. The rift that is opened during Operation Protective Edge is quite big. As it looks in Sakhnin, it's quite hard to narrow it down.
You know that we have. I have two examples in mind. One was the slogan, you could see, for example, during the game between Bnei Sakhnin and Hapoel Tel Aviv, Jerusalem is ours, completely crazy in the middle of Israel. And the second one, during the Protected Edge, in the suburbs of Sakhnin, Muslim youngsters just stopped car and asked people if they were Jewish or not. So you can see that those examples show how much the tension is inside and is lived by all the area.
Absolutely, not more. The tension in Israeli society. Going to football, Matthias Imbar, thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome.
Almost every top team in Europe has African players in their squad, but they lose them for a whole month, once every 2 years, due to the African Cup of Nations, which is played in the winter. Will it happen again in the beginning of 2015? Not so sure, as tournament host Morocco asked to postpone it due to the spread of the Ebola virus. Liz Barenbaum and Michael Friedman with a story and their reactions.
The big question in football is whether or not we should cancel the African Cup of Nations in 2015. While the Ebola virus continues to spread in Africa, the African Football Confederation continues to debate on having this competition. Morocco will be hosting the African Cup of Nations between January and February of 2015 and has now requested postponing the tournament to a later date. This follows figures published by the World Health Organization, which showed that more than 4,400 people already died as this terrible disease continues to spread exponentially since it began in Guinea in December of 2013.
We talk about alarming numbers with the spread of the Ebola virus. There are more projections in the coming months that it will have spread to more than 20,000 people.
For the current host country, the situation is more dangerous to the public and the players.
Because tomorrow the fans who are going to be with their respective teams will be seen, and there is talk of a number very high. That is to say, towards 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, or even in attendance.
Given the urgency of the situation, the African Football Confederation is preparing in case Morocco backs out. If several nations respond positive, The Confederation will conduct a random drawing, a process which is troubling since the African Cup of Nations is a major tournament in world football. Ghana already organized the African Cup of Nations in 1963, 1978, and 2008, and would be excited at the idea of taking over. But for many countries, this could be a logistical nightmare as the tournament takes place in less than 3 months. But this wouldn't be the first time for a country to take over the reign, as South Africa replaced Libya in the previous Cup.
You ask now, are we a plan B for Morocco? When Australia put themselves out as a plan B for South Africa, you got very angry with them. You didn't want any plan B for your right to host an event.
In Europe, the majority of the top African footballers play for elite clubs. Those teams have many hesitations, and the coach of Borussia Dortmund, Jürgen Klopp, has made his voice heard over this issue.
The fact is that I wonder about it a lot. If an African country has the feeling that it's not safe, well, for me it's automatic. It is necessary to postpone the competition. You have to take it seriously. We cannot close our eyes and say that nothing will happen and maintain at all costs the African Nations Cup.
The European clubs do not want to have their best players to participate in this cup, but in keeping up with FIFA regulations, the clubs must allow their players to play with their national teams. So if the competition will take place, there is not much the teams can do.
And with me in the studio is Michael Friedman. Hi, Michael.
Hi, how are you?
The tournament is less than 3 months away. Decisions have to be taken very soon. Is this a realistic scenario, the African Cup of Nations being canceled?
I don't perceive that they will cancel it. It is in 3 months. They are ready for it. The question is will Morocco keep it, and are they going to pull out? If they pull out, it will cause a lot of hysteria. But ultimately, this is very important to the continent. They want to be able to get this tournament going, so they're going to do everything possible. They've held in the past, other situations, but they've been able to, get through and play it despite that.
And the fear is Morocco and the whole of North Africa is pretty much Ebola-free.
Yeah.
The fear is thousands of fans coming from West Africa. You cannot track each and every one of them. 1 or 2 may be infected, and then it spreads.
This is surely a major public health issue, and the fact that they are going to be coming in the masses. How do you prevent every single one, when they come in from the airport or this way? It's a challenge, and if the case there is that one person who has Ebola, it can spread exponentially, and just being this close, someone can get it.
Exactly. So, as we hear, Morocco is not enthusiastic about hosting the event, but the players want the tournament to proceed as planned. Several big names in African football already expressed their voice for the tournament, and they're not the only ones. I24 News' Matthias Inbar met with Juwon Oshinawa, Nigerian player who currently plays for Ashdod Sport Club here in Israel. He spoke of the challenges of dealing with the epidemic and also stated that there is no reason for the cancellation of the African Championship.
Do you understand that other countries are afraid of playing against those teams?
Yeah, sure. But I want to believe, like Syria, they're using Cameroon as their home ground. So they can equally do such again for any other country that is facing this virus challenge. They can go elsewhere, or neighboring country or close country that it's Ebola free. They can go there and make their home, but that shouldn't be used as yardstick that they should cancel, or they should not have or host the African Cup of Nations.
And what Oshinawa is saying is pretty much the feeling among the players. They want to see this tournament going on.
Yeah, all of the players, it's important to them. They want to play. They want to make their countries proud. And they're all happy. They're all, Yaya Toure, every single player, they want to be there, and they're hoping that this tournament continues.
But in the previous story, we heard Jürgen Klopp saying, well, maybe it shouldn't be happening. We know the European clubs are not enthusiastic about losing their players, not because of Ebola, but it happens every time there's the African Cup of Nations. They lose them at January, February, crunch time, they lose their players. They'd love them to stay this time around.
Yeah, of course, with the club and the coaches, it's a different story. They have a lot of money riding on their players. They want, the players to come back injury-free, Ebola-free. So, this is, every time there's the the international friendlies or the international break, every time the coaches are very upset and they're very worried. Mourinho's always, saying, I don't want my players to get hurt. So this is something...
Somehow Jose Mourinho is always the first one to be up there. Whether it's in Inter, Real Madrid, Chelsea, you name it, Porto.
Can't have any players getting hurt, poor players and poor club, and then the chances that they won't be able to compete for the Champions League or for, in May, the finals, it'll be very, very problematic.
So as for the moment, the tournament is scheduled for the end of January until the beginning of February in Morocco. We'll see, and it has to be decided pretty soon if the tournament takes place. Michael Friedman, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And that's it for this weekend edition of I24 News Sports. Don't forget you can watch us anytime on our website at i24news.tv. We're also on Facebook and on Twitter. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you very much.